are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, August 7th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the latest rumors surrounding Brandon Aiyuk. That's been going on the last couple of days. So I just wanted to touch upon that, as well as talking about Christian McCaffrey and giving you an update on his injury, a calf strain that's going to keep him out for the entire preseason. So a couple things with the 49ers to start off the show. Then in the second part of the show, we will recap episode 1 of the Hard Knocks episode featuring the Bears. So the training camp version of that. So I watched that last night, so I want to get into that. We'll talk about the practices between the Giants and the Lions that have gotten heated. There's been some scuffles, some fights breaking out. So I just wanted to get into that as well. Then we'll talk about Joe Burrow, some recent comments that he had on the Up and Adams show, talking about Patrick Mahomes going up against him. And then in the final part of the show, we will begin our receiver rankings, and we will talk about the NFC East. We'll get into the NFC East and rank the receiver groups, the receiving cores in that division. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the latest Brandon Aiyuk rumors. So there's been a lot of mixed things. So you had these trade packages in place for Aiyuk, and supposedly the two teams that were in on Aiyuk, there's also three. Well, there was three, and then you heard that one of the teams was out, and then they were back in. It was just a lot of mixed reports out there yesterday. But basically, the Browns were in on him, the Patriots were in on him, and the Steelers were supposedly in on him. And for the Steelers, in order for them to possibly obtain Aiyuk, they'd have to give up one of George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, or their first-round pick for next year. And probably not going to happen, but I think that's why there were reports out there. Well, that was why there were reports out there that the Steelers were reportedly out on Aiyuk. The Patriots, apparently, Kendrick Bourne was involved in the trade package. For the Browns, it would be Amari Cooper, who just restructured his contract. So you have all that, but the 49ers don't want to trade Aiyuk. And I know he's been a topic of conversation this offseason because he wants that new deal, but who knows if that's going to happen with the Niners. And Kyle Shanahan expressed hope that Aiyuk would remain with the team, but provided no timetable for a resolution. He refused to discuss specifics regarding offers, contracts, or trades. And yeah, it's just there are a bunch of reports out there, and you just don't know what to believe. Now, in terms of what would be the best fit for him, because you have the Steelers, you got the Browns, and you got the Patriots. Well, the Patriots are a little further away from competing right now. They're in a rebuild. And you got a young quarterback in Drake May. Right now, I don't think he's going to be the starter right off the bat. I think you're going to have Jacoby Brissett start at least a year, and then you go to Drake May at some point. So, but, I think if you were to rank the three destinations, they'd probably be ranked at the bottom. And then between the Browns and the Steelers. Well, here's the thing. Both teams, I think, will be very competitive. They'll be in the thick of things in the playoff race. But which is the better destination for him? It's tough to say. If you go to the Browns, you're going to be the number one guy. And, I mean, you could be the number one guy in Pittsburgh, too, but they got George Pickens, who's a stud. But, with the Browns, Jerry Jeudy's been, we were expecting more from him. And you got David Njoku and Elijah Moore there, and you got Deshaun Watson, who hasn't been great since going over the Browns. And then with the Steelers, you got George Pickens, who's a stud. And then at the quarterback position, there's question marks there too, because Russell Wilson, we don't know if he's going to be there. Both quarterbacks, we don't know if they're going to be there beyond this year. So it's kind of a toss-up between the Browns and the Steelers, in my opinion. Which I would lean towards. It's really tough. I mean, I guess maybe you lean towards the Browns because, the Browns are locked in with Deshaun Watson. With the Steelers, I mean, you don't know. They have a completely different quarterback room this year. They could have a completely different quarterback room next year because Russell Wilson's only there for 1 year. And Justin Fields, they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so he's going to be a free agent. Now, Justin Fields has looked great in camp, but we got to see how they actually play in a real game. So, but what's the best move for Aiyuk? It's staying in San Francisco. Why would you want to leave? Well, you could say, because he wants to get paid, and the 49ers are not willing to give him the money that he wants. I get it. But you go anywhere else, any other team that's willing to trade for you, and the 49ers are willing to trade with them, it's not going to be like it is in San Francisco. Now, you're going to be the guy. You're going to get your targets. You're going to put up good numbers, but are you going to win? Probably not. And you have some people in the media saying that the 49ers Super Bowl window is closed if Aiyuk is to leave, which I think is ridiculous because this team is still really good even without Aiyuk. Now, does this offense take a massive hit? Absolutely. But they have enough players on this team that they're going to be able to work through it. So, but that's just the latest. I mean, right now, nothing has happened. But those are the teams that at least were in on Aiyuk. So we'll see if he ends up getting traded. I mean, I've said it all along that I'm not very optimistic with how this is going and that this is ultimately going to lead to him going somewhere else. But only time will tell. And, the 49ers are dealing with some injuries and also another holdout. Trent Williams is holding out, so he's looking for a new contract. So it's just the 49ers have a lot going on. But with the injuries, so Christian McCaffrey is dealing with a calf strain. He's expected to miss a couple of weeks of practice and is unlikely to play in the preseason. The 49ers will handle McCaffrey's injury with caution to ensure he is ready for the regular season. And also their rookie, Ricky Pearsall, who could be Aiyuk's replacement. He aggravated his shoulder during practice, so that's just another injury there as well. But, a calf injury, those are tough to deal with. Those are very tough to deal with. And McCaffrey has dealt with them before. I think he was dealing with it a little bit last year, if I'm not mistaken. Because, he did play in every game, but he was still dealing with nagging injuries throughout the season. But they got to be very careful with him, and I think they will, because they don't want to see this guy get hurt. Because he has been a difference maker since he came over to San Francisco from Carolina. So we talk about, if Aiyuk leaves, yeah, that hurts the 49ers. But you still got him. You still got Deebo Samuel. You still got George Kittle. You're backed up by a very good defense. And Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. And I'm not saying he's elite. Not saying he's top tier. But he's gotten the job done. Whether you think he's a system quarterback or not. He's gotten the job done. So they'll figure it out. But, now you got, the stuff with Aiyuk and, McCaffrey's hurt. It's just, they're dealing with a lot right now. But I think they're a good enough team that they're going to be able to figure it out. But I know my friends who are Jet fans are like, McCaffrey, you could take as much time as you want to heal up, even if it leaks into the regular season. Because that's the opening matchup on Monday, on the first Monday, is Jets 49ers. And, my Jet fan friends and family members, they do not want to see McCaffrey. And they don't want to see Aiyuk. Just give the Jets a very easy game. Well, even if those guys are out, it's still going to be tough. But make it a little bit easier. So, but it just seems like McCaffrey will be fine for the regular season, but right now he's just not going to play in the preseason. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep on the Aiyuk stuff. But yeah, it looked like for the moment that, he could be traded yesterday, but that ended up not happening. So maybe something happens today. Who knows? I mean, we saw him shaking hands with Kyle Shanahan at practice. So he was showing up, just not practicing. So we'll see how it goes. But this is just something that's going to continue. And, the season's a month away. So we're getting closer. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the Aiyuk trade rumors, the McCaffrey injury. It's just, the 49ers are getting hit with a lot. And like I said, Trent Williams is holding out. Ricky Pearsall's hurt. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. And on top of that, you got Dre Greenlaw, who's recovering from his injury that he suffered in the Super Bowl. Those are big pieces for this team. Now, like I said, I think they'll figure it out, but, we saw back in 2020 when the 49ers were getting killed by injuries. Now, some of these aren't injuries. These are just guys looking for a new contract, but still. A lot of their guys were out, and look what ended up happening to them. They ended up just not having a good year. I forget what they went. They went like 6-10. So we'll see what happens, but let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments about these two things and just the 49ers in general. So when we come back from our first break of the show, I'll talk about episode 1 of Hard Knocks featuring the Bears. Give you my thoughts on that when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Everybody in the world blind. Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right. right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to talk about episode 1 of Hard Knocks, well, the Bears version now. I know we talked about the Giants a handful of times, of course, talking about each episode. So we're going to get into talking about the Bears. So the episode was about an hour long. It's like 54 minutes. But yeah, this is now the training camp version of Hard Knocks. And, you know, you got to see, you know, the Bears take Caleb Williams with the first overall pick, and he was all pumped up, you know, getting on stage, hugging Roger Goodell. So you saw that. You saw the clip that we all saw on social media, you know, of him announcing his signing bonus, and then he started singing. And then you also had another Bears player doing the same thing. So you got to see that. You also saw Nick Saban there as well, talking to Matt Eberflus as well, because he coached Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus played on defense, and Nick Saban was the coach of him. So that was interesting. You got to see a deep dive. Well, not really a deep dive, but, you know, they showed more of the family stuff, Matt Eberflus's family, and you got to see them while they were watching the Hall of Fame game as well. You know, we also got to see Jonathan Owens, who is, I think they got married. Jonathan Owens and Simone Biles. We got to see a little bit of their relationship, him going and supporting her at the Olympics. So we got to see that. We also saw DJ Moore's contract negotiations go down as well. So there was a lot of stuff they showed Caleb Williams, you know, struggling in practice a little bit. And then, you know, they also showed him making some good plays as well. But yeah, I mean, this is a team that, you know, I'm looking forward to watching because there's a lot of expectations there. And for me, it's really hard for me not to see the Bears do well this year because of just the amount of talent that they have, especially on offense. I mean, they got one of the best trios in the league with their wide receivers. DJ Moore, who's coming off of a solid first year with the Bears. Now, a new quarterback, but still. You got him. You got Keenan Allen, who's a stud. And you got Rome Odunze, who is one of the top receivers in the draft. It's hard for me not to see this team do well. And I've said it. There's going to be growing pains. You know, Caleb Williams is not going to be great right away. I mean, he could come out. Could he have an RG3 debut in week 1? Yeah, he could. But there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some struggles. And ultimately, he's going to have to show that he's the guy. And how does he deal with adversity? How does he handle that? But like I said, it's hard for me not to see the Bears do well with the amount of talent that they got on this roster. Now, I'm not expecting this team to, you know, win the division, go all the way to the Super Bowl. No, but I'm expecting this team to be a 9-win team, 9-10 wins. And maybe get into the playoffs as a wild card. Because I could definitely see this team getting in as a wild card. But we haven't seen what Caleb Williams can do at the NFL level. So that's, you know, that's what it's going to come down to. How is he going to play at the NFL level? And he was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. You know, the Bears have a lot of confidence in him. And we'll find out if they made the right move trading Justin Fields and drafting him. And they got the number 1 overall pick, as my camera's been acting up, so I'm going to fix that. But they got him with the number one overall pick because of the Panthers. So if Caleb Williams ends up panning out and being the guy, they basically got DJ Moore and Caleb Williams from the Panthers. All right, so that ended up not doing anything. Got the Spider-Verse going today. But yeah, the Bears will look really good if that ends up panning out. And I do have confidence that it will, but, you go back to, man, it's just still not working. I don't understand. But, in recent memory, the Bears got Justin Fields and Mitchell Trubisky. Before that, they moved up to get Trubisky. Not my day today, I guess, with the camera. So, and before that, they had Jay Cutler, and, they got to the playoffs. They played in an NFC Championship game, which he got hurt. And the Bears are hoping that this is it, that they're not picking this high, that he's the guy moving forward. And the Bears have put a lot of talent around him to be successful. And we'll see how it goes. It's right out of the gate, who do they play in week 1? They play the Titans week 1. So they play the Titans week 1, and then they play who they just played in the Hall of Fame game. They play the Texans. Week 2, I'm excited. That matchup against the Texans, I'm really looking forward to. So we'll get to see. Well, I think the Titans, I think that's a good matchup to have in week 1. Now, the Titans have made a lot of moves this offseason. They got a veteran team. They recently signed Quandre Diggs. They signed Jamal Adams before that. They got L'Jarius Sneed. So they really retooled their secondary. I know with some older players. L'Jarius Sneed is still, in the prime of his career. He's coming off of a great year with the Chiefs. But, you signed some veteran guys in the secondary. You signed veteran guys at receiver, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, and Tony Pollard. But, I think that's a matchup the Bears can definitely win, and it's also at home. So, but week 2 is against the Texans, who they did play in the Hall of Fame game. That was the other thing as well, showing the Hall of Fame game. They highlighted Colin Johnson, who had a big game, the 2 touchdowns. Also, another thing, too, they focused on Brett Rippon as well. They were doing a drill on sliding, and they were using a slip and slide to do that. So it was just kind of funny how when we got to the Hall of Fame game and they were saying, talking about Brett Rippon and him sliding, the sliding drills, were helping with that. But yeah, you had a couple of quarterbacks, or a few quarterbacks, battling now for the the final 2 spots. You got Tyson Bagent, Brett Rippon, and then you also have Austin Reed as well. They're going to be fighting for those final 2 spots because Caleb Williams is going to be, the number 1 guy, but it's behind him. We got to see. Brett Rippon looked good in the Hall of Fame game, so I think he probably makes the team and is one of the backups, and then it's going to come down to Austin Reed and Tyson Bagent, who won some games last year. I would probably lean towards it being Bagent and Rippon that ends up being the backups for him. But I definitely think one player that I know is definitely going to make the team and is going to be, a depth piece is Colin Johnson. He's going to be, either the 4th, 5th, 6th receiver, wherever he's going to be on the depth chart. He's going to make the team. And even on the first play, when they were showing the kickoff, the new kickoff, he was right there. He was on special teams. He was right there on that first play to try to, make the tackle. So I think he right now he looks like a lock to make the team. So we'll see. But yeah, I just it was a good episode. It was a good episode. Also Jalen Johnson, I forgot to mention. I know I talked about him a little bit on Monday. You know, him being upset over the rankings, the top 100 rankings, but they showed him, you know, driving his new car. So we'll see. We'll see what else this brings. But I thought it was a good episode, and they really do a great job. Producing these. And we got 4 episodes left after this. There's 5 episodes. I thought with the Giants, I thought there was gonna be 6, but there was only 5. So yeah, like I said, we'll continue to recap these every week when they come out, and I give you my thoughts on them. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this episode. What were some of your takeaways from it? You know, again, I mean, when talking about Caleb Williams, yeah, you see him struggling in practice, but then he makes some good plays. You know, he had a nice throw to DJ Moore that would have been a touchdown. So, you know, he's got talent. And I really do think that the Bears are going to have a good year. But only time will tell. You know, that's just my opinion. So, before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break, we will talk about the scuffles that the Giants and the Lions got into in their joint practices recently. So make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about the Giants and the Lions getting into it in their joint practice. So they'll be playing each other tomorrow night, both of their first preseason games. But yeah, there was a handful of scuffles that went on. And 3 fights broke out during a joint practice between these two teams. The first altercation involved a shoving match between Giants cornerback Dave Belton and Lions wide receiver AmonRaSt.Brown. And, of course, as I'm saying that, you know, the camera decides to continue what it's been doing. But, yeah. So Dane Belton and AmonRaSt.Brown got into it. A second fight occurred when Giants corner Andrew Phillips shoved the Lions pass catcher Jamison Williams, leading to a prolonged scuffle. And Daniel Jones actually got involved in a third altercation as well. He got in there and he shoved somebody. So, you know, the quarterback's getting himself, into it. So, you know what? As a Giant fan, you got to like that. You know, Malik Neighbors also got into it with one of the corners of the Lions, Kirby Joseph. Yeah, he got into it with him. Yeah, I mean, you gotta like it. You gotta like that they're showing some fight. You know, and the Giants are you're hoping that they're not gonna get pushed around if you're a Giant fan like myself. But you gotta like what you're seeing early on, and especially with Malik Neighbors lighting it up in camp and And Daniel Jones actually not looking that bad. Now, I don't want to get excited, but because, it is only practice. But, yeah, you do have to like it. And also, Giants general manager Joe Shane actually intervened to help break up the fights, as reported by The Athletic's Charlotte Carroll. These fights mark the first significant altercations of the preseason during inter-squad practices. The Lions and the Giants do not play during the regular season, but like I said, they're going to face off on Thursday, which is tomorrow. But, yeah, look, the Giants have been pushed around a lot over the course of the last, 10 years. They've had some years where they made the playoffs, but even in the playoffs, they got, when they lost, they got pushed around. They got bullied by the Packers, losing 38-13, losing to the Eagles. What was the score of that game? It was like 38-7. I don't even remember. Look, they came off that win against the Vikings, but still, I mean, you went up against the Eagles and you looked like you didn't even deserve to even be in the playoffs. So the Giants are looking to get back to how they were before the Eagles playoff game. And be even better than that. Be a better version of that 2022 team. And I do have some confidence in the direction that the Giants are going in. I've said that. The main problem with them is the quarterback position. And how is Daniel Jones going to play? And Daniel Jones, like I said, getting into it, shoving guys, and, he's got the beard going. This might be a different Daniel Jones that we see, because now you actually have weapons around him. You don't have Saquon Barkley, but I think these pass catchers, and we'll get into them a little bit later in the show, I do think that the Giants have some good pass catchers on this team, especially now with bringing Malik Nabers into the fold. You got him. You got Jalen Hyatt, who's a deep ball guy. You have slot receiver Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton. You still got there Isaiah Hodgins. You got two young tight ends. You've addressed the offensive line this offseason, so you hope that pays off. And you know what? I don't think the defense is going to be that bad. So all of that, and if Daniel Jones could at least be competent, I don't think the Giants are going to be that bad this year. I did say 7 wins, but, if you win 7 games, but you're basically in every single game, almost every game, maybe you steal a win from Dallas or Philly, that gives Giant fans hope. But, if Daniel Jones is the weak link of the team, then the Giants are going to move off of him and try to figure it out. And you got Dak Prescott, who could become available, which I don't know how I would feel. Now, do I think Dak Prescott would be an upgrade over Daniel Jones? I mean, I guess, yeah. Well, I shouldn't say I guess. Yes, he would be an upgrade. But I don't know how I'd feel. Just because of all the years in Dallas, and now you're coming over to the Giants, and the Giants would pay him, a $60 million contract if that's the case. I don't know how I feel about that. And once again, Camera just decides to, not work. But it is, I do like that, what I'm hearing, though, that and seeing that Malik Nabers is lighting it up. He looks like he's unguardable right now in camp. That's what the Giants were missing. They're missing that number 1 receiver. Because they haven't had that in years. They haven't had that since Odell Beckham Jr. And now you're getting another LSU receiver, and he looks like he's going to be a stud. And then for the Lions, I mean, look, we see these fights happen all the time. I mean, look at the Steelers. They had a fight amongst themselves in practice recently. Yeah, because I don't want to turn this all into a Giants talk, but, I mean, this is against a team. The Giants are doing this against a team that, has aspirations of going to a Super Bowl. And, with everything that's going on with the 49ers right now, and, let's see how Philly is coming back from the collapse last year. This could be the Lions' opportunity. Take over the conference. be the team that represents the NFC this year. You know, they have a lot of talent on this team. They got, you know, a stud at wide receiver in AmonRaSt.Brown. You know, 2 solid running backs, a tight end going into his second season, Sam Laporta, a good offensive line, Jared Goff on a new contract. On the defensive side of the ball, you got a stud, Nathan Hutchinson. You know, this team could jump on the opportunity with everything going on around them. You know, take over this conference. Now, they play the 49ers late in the year. I think it's week 17. So they play them the second to last week of the season. So that could very well decide home field advantage. I mean, I think it'll definitely have, you know, some implications with playoff seeding, but that's definitely a game you got circled. You got to have circled because that has heavy implications. That will have heavy implications. But yeah, it's just, look, these fights, it's part of the game. I mean, you don't want to see anybody getting hurt. I mean, AmonRaSt.Brown coming off of his new contract, you know, you don't want to see him get hurt. I mean, watching receiver, him talking about, you know, his oblique and completely ripped off the bone, and he was still playing. I mean, he did miss a game, I believe, but still, like, it's unbelievable. Like, you don't want to see this guy getting hurt again. You know, I did see a clip of, you know, Brian Burns. Now, obviously, you know, it's practice, but, you know, he would have sacked Jared Goff. There was that one clip of him, you know, rushing Jared Goff, and, you know, he would have sacked him. But, you know, again, in practice, you can't hit the quarterback. So, you know, that was encouraging to see. But, yeah, we'll see how the matchup goes when they go up against each other tomorrow. We'll see, you know, what starters play. I would like to see. I mean, the starters are going to play. I think these two teams that they're going to have, the starters will play at some point, but maybe not the first preseason game. But, you know, I'm excited to, you know, watch the Giants and just, you know, see, you know, what they look like. Because I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be a pushover. I think there's some pressure going into this year for them to do well. I think the quarterback feels it, and I think the front office and the head coach feel it too, because of how last year went. Like for the Lions, I mean, I expect them to be a 12-win team. You know, Dan Campbell, his job security, there's no issue with that. You know, this team is going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. But for the Giants, oh man, this is ridiculous. The Giants, you know, you made the playoffs the year before. You looked like you took a massive step forward, but then you took, you know, a step back. You know, so got to see how it goes. But you know, I'm looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward to this season for them and how they're gonna do. So that's just that's my opinion on it. Like I said, I said around 7 wins, but who knows? I don't think on paper this team is bad. But again, comes down to the quarterback position. But I do like that he's getting in the mix with these scuffles, these fights that are breaking out. Because that could go a long way. And they've been airing it out a lot in practice, which you want to see the Giants look like an offense that is dangerous, because I haven't seen that in years. You know, there's not a lot of big plays with the Giants. It's a lot of, you know, quick passes and, you know, just nothing down the field often. It's not. You don't really see that. But maybe this is the year that the Giants, you know, get back to more explosive plays. We see more of that. So, But let me know what you guys think, though, about the fights that broke out with the Lions and the Giants. You think we'll see any fights in the game tomorrow night? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our next break. When we come back, we'll talk about Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow was interviewed by Kay Adams recently, so I just wanted to get into what he had to say regarding Patrick Mahomes and then matching up against each other. So that is what we will do when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk about Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. So Joe Burrow was recently interviewed by Kay Adams, and he just had some comments, on playing Patrick Mahomes and how, Patrick Mahomes brings out the best in him. And I just wanted to get into that conversation of, when these two guys play against each other. So now these are the numbers between the playoffs and the postseason, the playoffs and the regular season. These are their stats going up against each other. Now, Patrick Mahomes does have a Super Bowl ring, playing against Joe Burrow. I mean, when they matched up against each other in the second AFC Championship game, Patrick Mahomes went on to win the Super Bowl. The one win that Mahomes does have against Burrow. Now, Burrow did beat him the previous year to get to the Super Bowl, and they lost to the Rams. But these are the stats when they go up against each other. And what I thought was interesting is that in the regular season matchups, the interceptions that they have, they're all in the postseason. They're all in the postseason. They have no interceptions against each other in the matchups in the regular season, which I thought was interesting. But, they got around the same touchdowns. Burrow has, a couple hundred more yards than Mahomes, and of course is 3-1. But you know what? He's got the 3-1 record, but their matchups always come down to the end. It's always a 3-point difference when they play against each other. So, we could sit here and say, well, Burrow's 3-1 against Mahomes. Well, Mahomes has a Super Bowl ring in the matchups against Burrow, because he went on to win the Super Bowl. In the matchup in the first AFC Championship game that they went against each other, Burrow ended up losing. Again, it's not like they got embarrassed. I mean, it was a close game, but in that one win, that led to Mahomes winning yet another Super Bowl. So what Burrow had to say is, I think you got to go out and not be scared to make mistakes. You got to go out and make plays because he's going to go out and make plays, and that brings out the best in me. It's always an exciting challenge when we go against each other. So that was the quote that I wanted to get into. But it's a lot of fun when these two teams get together. Now, last year we got robbed of that because Burrow got hurt, and that game actually, was competitive. Well, the Bengals, they went up. They were up by like 10 points with Jake Browning, and it looked like, wow, even without Burrow, they could still beat the Chiefs. But then the Chiefs came back, won that game. But yeah, we were robbed of that. But we're getting this. We usually get and that was late in the season. We usually get these games late in the season. Whether it's like it's week 15, week 16, week 17, between those weeks, or of course when they play in the championship game against each other. But now we're getting this matchup in week 2. And, I don't know if the NFL had like a specific reason for why they wanted to put this matchup in week 2. Are they concerned about Joe Burrow? and his health? Did something did that play a role in it? Because, like I said, we're used to seeing this late in the year, and we're getting this early on. So I don't know what the reasoning was behind that. I mean, I listen, having these guys go up against each other late in the year, I think is better because, the stakes are higher, and like that could very well decide, who's got home field advantage. Now, none of the matchups in the regular season, they didn't. That wasn't on the line, home field advantage. But still, like, it's possible that this year that could happen. But we got it late. We got it earlier in the season. And the Chiefs got a tough start. They got the Ravens at home. Well, they got both teams at home. They got the Ravens at home and they got the Bengals at home. But still, I mean, those are not going to be easy games. And is it possible the Chiefs could start off 0-2? Sure, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's more likely they're going to start off 2-0. 1-1 at worst. 0-2, I don't see it. Because the Bengals are a team that get off to slow starts. So that combined with playing Mahomes in Arrowhead and the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs' offense is going to be really good this year. I think those struggles they had in the regular season last year, that's a thing of the past. We're going to see the Kansas City offense that we're accustomed to seeing back when Tyreek Hill was still on the team. I think we're getting back towards that. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Just because, you like to see big plays. I'm not saying, I'm looking forward to the Chiefs just dominating against everybody again for another season. But there is some concerns I think people have. I think on the offensive line, at least, when I was watching Colin Cowherd yesterday, he said the reasoning behind him saying he doesn't think Kansas City's going to repeat is because of the offensive line. Look, I think the Chiefs are going to be fine. They're going to figure it out. If there's any problems. Look, if last year showed us anything, it's that, the Chiefs can withstand whatever and still win a Super Bowl. They could have a down year offensively, make the playoffs, and still win the whole thing. So, but, that does make you think about when they made it to the Super Bowl a few years ago against Tom Brady and the Bucs, and, Mahomes was running for his life the whole game. So, yeah, that you got to keep that in the back of your mind. But they still got to the Super Bowl. But I know that was one thing I heard. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to when these two guys play against each other once again. I hope it's another classic. It wouldn't surprise me if it comes down to 3 points again. I did say, like I said before, the Bengals do struggle out of the gate sometimes. But I don't know. I still think this game is going to be great. I just hope that both quarterbacks stay healthy, throughout the year. Burrow's coming off of the wrist injury, and, I'm still a little worried about that. But, we got to see how he plays. But, if the Bengals stay healthy, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And, it's... I still think they are... if with the healthy Joe Burrow, they're one of the top teams in the AFC. And if Burrow is healthy throughout the year, it's going to be between them and the Ravens for that division. The toughest division in football. So, but I don't know. I have some concerns with that wrist. So hopefully, that doesn't, hopefully nothing happens. So, we'll see how this matchup goes when they play against each other. You know, and I mean, like I said, I'm expecting another classic. Again, it's just unbelievable that pretty much all their matchups come down to a game-winning field goal, basically, or a go-ahead field goal. You know, both AFC Championship games, the first regular season matchup, I forget. I think in 2022 it was the same thing. It was a game-winning field goal, a go-ahead field goal with that, whatever it was. Either way, all of their matchups come down to 3 points. So, you know, don't be surprised if, you know, that's going to be the spread for this year when they play against each other. Actually, let's see if they have it up right now. Let's see. I usually look on CBS. Let's see. We're going to go to week 2. And on CBS, Chiefs are favored by 3.5. Now, it could be a trap. You could say, well, yeah, every game they've been separated by 3 points, and you take the 3, and then what happens? The Chiefs win by 4 or something. Because that could definitely happen. But I was right. I said 3.5. I could see that. The Chiefs favored by 3. So, and that's coming up. So you guys are going to hear me complaining about, you know, how I'm doing in my spread pool and all that. So, you know, get ready for more of that soon because it's coming. It's coming. So, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. You know, I'm excited for the matchup against each other. When they match up against each other, you know, they really do bring out the best in each other. Got the same amount of touchdowns. I mean, the interceptions, like I said, they've happened in the playoffs. All of them. They did not turn the quarterbacks didn't turn the ball over because there was definitely turnovers in the regular season matchups. But they weren't responsible for them. Yeah, because Mahomes had, you know, a couple of. Well, I actually didn't even look at the fumbles because I'm pretty sure Mahomes did lose a fumble in the second AFC Championship game. I know he had a pick. Did he have? Yeah, he had 2 picks in the first AFC Championship game because he had the one that led to, I think, the drive that led to the Bengals tying it, and then the other one was in overtime when he threw that pass to Tyreek Hill, and that got tipped up and intercepted. But he did have a fumble, I believe, in the last the second AFC Championship game. But yeah, let me know what you guys think though about the matchups between these two players. What's in store for us this time around? Are we gonna get another classic? You know, we're not that far from it. Got another month, a little over a month. So, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It should be another very good game. So, we're gonna take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we will do the rankings of the receivers in the NFC East. So make sure to stick around for that. And, yeah, that'll end off the show for today. So with that being said, for one final time today, stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to rank the the receivers in the NFC East. So I know we did quarterbacks, we did running backs, like I just said, but now we will be doing receivers. So I didn't really know how to go about it. So I just, instead of doing individual receivers, I just did like the teams. So I just ranked the teams based on their receivers. So let's get into that as we're getting towards the end here. So at 4, I got the Commanders. I will say it was tough ranking the Giants and the Commanders, who I would put ahead of who, because I also didn't want to come off as being biased. Because I do think that Terry McLaurin right now is the best receiver of the two teams, if we were to stack them up against each other. Now, I talked very highly of Malik Neighbors a couple of segments ago, but I do think as of right now, you got to give Terry McLaurin the respect, and I would probably rank him ahead of everybody of those two teams. But again, this is the entire wide receiver core. And behind Terry McLaurin, last year, I think their second receiver in receiving yards, it was Curtis Samuel. He's no longer there. Then you have Jahan Dotson. You have De'Ami Brown. They also drafted Luke McCaffrey. So, there's question marks behind Terry McLaurin. Now, with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, let's see how that changes. Because I did see, Jaden Daniels throw a pass to Terry McLaurin. That was a nice play on social media. And we're going to see Jaden Daniels play when the Commanders play the Jets on Friday, I believe. Yeah, Friday. So, we'll see if Terry McLaurin is playing in that game. I'm not 100% sure if he is. Maybe he's not. But Jaden Daniels is definitely playing. So, but yeah, Terry McLaurin had a little over 1,000 yards last year, despite, Sam Howell playing quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. Terry McLaurin is an underrated receiver, and, he's just looking for some consistency with the quarterback play. But I think Jahan Dotson, he had around, I want to say he had around like 300 receiving yards last year. De'Ami Brown had like 100 receiving yards. Like he had like 168 or something when I was looking at their stats last night. Yeah, so Terry McLaurin had 1,002 receiving yards. Jahan Dotson had 518. I don't think Logan Thomas is not there anymore. He had 496. Brian Robinson Jr. had 368 yards receiving. Antonio Gibson had 389. He's not on the team anymore. Yeah, De'Ami Brown had 168. Byron Pringle had 161. Jamison Crowder had 159. So, yeah, I mean, that's... And then now you got Luke McCaffrey in there. You do have Austin Eckler, but, he's a running back. So, I'm not putting him within the receivers. But Austin Eckler's going to get used a decent amount in the passing game. So, but yeah, I don't know. The depth behind Terry McLaurin, I just have some questions with them. So that's kind of why I have them at 4. Now, again, I you could call me biased. I don't know. Maybe I am, but I do like the Giants' receiving core a little bit more than I like Washington's. Now, like I said, I do think Terry McLaurin right now is the best receiver amongst these two teams, but I don't know. And you could also say, well, who's going to be throwing them the ball? You got Daniel Jones. Is he going to be playing the whole year? Is he going to play well? There's question marks. There's question marks for both teams. But I like the Giants' receiving core more. Because you have Malik Neighbors, who looks like he's going to be a stud. And maybe he gets 1,000 yards this year in his first season. I think Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt, they're going to be better players now with Malik Neighbors being there and being a threat, because now defenses are going to be focusing in on him, and that's going to open up more opportunities for the other two guys. You also got Darius Slayton, who right now is, I guess is the fourth wide receiver behind these three guys. Last year he was their leading receiver. He had 770 receiving yards. Wan'Dale Robinson had 525. Jalen Hyatt had 373. And you got the other tight ends on the team, Bellinger and Theo Johnson. Sorry, holding back a sneeze. It happens. Look, it happens at least once. I know I always say that when I'm about to, but yeah, that's holding back another sneeze. But yeah, I don't know. I'm optimistic about the Giants receiving core, and I just think that, at least for me, they're a little bit better than Washington. But it's going to come down to the quarterback play as well. How is Jane Daniels going to be his rookie season? Is Daniel Jones going to stay healthy? Because we could very well see with the Giants, you could see Drew Lock playing. You could see Tommy DeVito playing instead. But I don't know. You could flip-flop these two. I don't know. For me, I like the Giants a little bit more than the Commanders. But like I said, Terry McLaurin, probably the best receiver of the two teams here. So yeah, I got the Giants receiving core at 3. I got the Cowboys at 2. Now, the reason for that, we know CeeDee Lamb is a stud, probably the best receiver, is the best receiver in the division. But it's behind CeeDee Lamb. Similar to talking about the Commanders and the Giants. Behind CeeDee Lamb, I have questions. Because you got Brandon Cooks, who I think, can still produce. Not in his prime, but, still a good receiver. And then outside of those two, there's question marks. They're talking about Jalen Tolbert. They got some other young guys as well. But, yeah, it's just there's a lack of depth at the receiver position. And if CeeDee Lamb, if his holdout continues into the regular season, that's going to be a problem for the Cowboys. And I think that's going to be a problem for the Cowboys, with a lot of their other positions, is depth. If they could stay healthy, they're going to win their 10, 11 games. But if they don't stay healthy and you got to rely on your depth, that could be a problem, especially on offense. Because if Dak Prescott doesn't have CeeDee Lamb, it's going to be a problem. But that's really what it is the lack of depth. And the question marks at receiver outside of, the top 2. And of course, the top 1, because, we know CeeDee Lamb, if he's playing, he's, one of the best receivers in the NFL. But like I said, Brandon Cooks is getting older, and we don't really know who that third wide receiver is going to be. Third or fourth, they talk about Jalen Tolbert. Like he's going to be good. But we don't know. So I got the Cowboys at 2. And then at 1, I got the Eagles. And it's because of these two guys right here. Your 1A and your 1B. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. 2 guys that got new contracts. Both very talented receivers. And I just think, because you got those two. I mean, I like the combination of those two better than I do CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. Now, if you took the Brandon Cooks from, 2016 and put him on the Cowboys, then I'd probably rank them ahead. But because Brandon Cooks is older, he's not the same player he once was. I like this combination better because, these two guys are still in their prime. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Now, I just wanted to pull up the stats of the two teams. So for the Cowboys, I mean, CeeDee Lamb, I know I've gone over his stats a handful of times. I mean, he had 1,749 yards receiving. Brandon Cooks had 657. Michael Gallup had 418. He's no longer there. Jalen Tolbert had 268. Kevontae Turpin at 127. So you're expecting him and Tolbert. They're going to have, their opportunity. Dak Prescott has talked about Tolbert. These guys are going to get more of an opportunity, now with the Gallup not being there. And then as for the Eagles, both receivers coming off of solid years. A.J. Brown had 1,456 receiving yards, and Devontae Smith had 1,066. So you had two receivers with over 1,000 yards. Now, behind them, we'll see who steps up, because you had Devontae Parker, but now he's not there. Paris Campbell's kind of their third option, well, receiver-wise. They brought in John Ross. Some of the young guys are going to have to step up, behind them. So they're another team. I mean, they got two but that's the thing, though. It's because the Eagles got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. With the Cowboys, it's CeeDee Lamb and then an older version of Brandon Cooks. That's my rationale behind that. I do think CeeDee Lamb is the best receiver in this division. And then I'd probably put A.J. Brown second. Devontae Smith would probably be third. And then I guess Terry McLaurin would be fourth. So I have no giant receivers in that top four. And then after that, you got Brandon Cooks, you got Malik Neighbors. I mean, individually, that's how I would rank them. But yeah, in terms of just the group, I'd probably I give the Eagles the edge, because you got 2,000-yard receivers on your team. The Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb's the guy. So, but let me know what you guys think though about the rankings. So to go through it one more time. So the Commanders at 4, Giants at 3, Cowboys at 2, and the Eagles at 1. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about those rankings. So that's pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows on the network as well. And, so as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.